Hey everybody, I'm Shane Kohler and I'm the founder of The Living Relationship. And in this week's video, we're talking about toxic relationships. One, if you're in a toxic relationship, how do you know that the relationship is toxic? How do you identify it? Two, if you have identified that there is toxic behavior in the relationship, how do you address that toxic behavior with your partner? And three, once you've identified the behavior and you've talked to them, how do you proceed in the relationship depending on how your conversation with them goes? We're also going to explore the 4 most common toxic behaviors that you might have overlooked. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notified every week when we post a new video. Also, make sure you watch this video all the way to the end because you don't want to miss out on anything that we're going to cover in this video. And we have a special gift for you, so watch it all the way through. Now let's go ahead and dive right in. So first things first, if you're in a toxic relationship, how do you identify it? How do you tell that the relationship and the behavior in the relationship is in fact toxic? We have 4 things that we look for that show you toxic tendencies and ways that a toxic person will usually act out in a relationship. The first one is that they always turn the arguments or the challenges that you come up with in the relationship, they always turn them around on you. They have a way of making everything your fault. They always point the finger, they always blame, and it's never them. They never have a sense of accountability about anything. They always want to deflect the accountability. They want to put it back on you. They want to make it your fault. The second most common toxic behavior is that people will hurt or they'll say things and do things in a certain way that are intended to cause pain. They're intended to hurt. So if you're having a disagreement or an argument or some kind of conflict, they're going to do and say things in a specific way that are intended to cause you pain. They don't really work towards the resolution of whatever's going on. They actually work to hurt, to inflict pain, and they do that in an intentional way. The third most toxic behavior that you should look for is that they do and say things that cause you to doubt yourself. They're always looking to make you question the way you see it. And not in a helpful way, not in a beneficial way, but they're actually making you want to doubt yourself. They want you to doubt your own inherent sense of trust and sense of ability to trust yourself. They want to undermine that. They want to attack that. So they'll tear down your confidence in yourself and your ability to trust yourself. They'll sometimes lie or say and do certain things that cause you to doubt the way you think things are or the way things that you know to be true. And they'll be manipulative and they'll use things you love against you. The fourth toxic behavior that you want to look for is that they will love you the most, or I should say not love you, but show you the most love when you're at your lowest point. When you've reached your lowest point, when you feel horrible about yourself, when you're maybe heartbroken or crying or hurt, they'll come to the rescue and they'll sweep in those moments. And sometimes they'll authentically apologize and they'll feel bad about maybe something they've said or done. So they'll sweep in those moments. But when you're at your highest, when you're feeling good about yourself, when you're feeling confident, they'll make comments and they'll say and do things that tear that down and that tear you down because you being at your highest feels threatening to them. In the first instance, where they turn everything around on you, the goal here is that they don't want to have any accountability in the relationship. So if you have an insecurity, a fear, or a doubt, or something that's upsetting to you and you want to address it with them, they're never going to look at that and say like, oh, well, I see how I could have done that, or I apologize, or maybe I should have approached that differently. What they're going to do is they're going to turn it around on you. They're going to flip it around on you. They're going to somehow make it your fault that they did or said whatever they did. or they're going to make you wrong for feeling the way you feel. They're going to somehow make you wrong, make you feel like you shouldn't feel that way, or the way that you're approaching it is wrong. Somehow it's going to be your fault. And you'll often feel like you're going to need to defend yourself. And the goal here is that they never have to assess their own conduct. They can assess yours and they can make you assess your own, but they never have to assess their own conduct. They're always pointing the finger at you and deflecting the attention away from themselves. You'll know this is happening because you'll feel like you are always on the defensive. You won't feel free to express yourself, to be honest, to be open with them. And when you do bring something up, you'll feel like you get put back on the defensive, like you wanted to talk to them about something. You had a concern or a question, something you wanted to address with them. And you brought it up, but then you leave on the defensive. They make you put your guard up, like they switch it up. So now you feel like you have to defend yourself in the situation. In a toxic relationship, the toxic partner will use disagreements or any kind of conflict as a way to cause harm and to cause pain. They actually intentionally try to hurt you. And what they'll do is they'll do things like they'll call you names, they'll insult you, they'll make direct personal attacks. Rather than talking about the issue that's at hand, whatever that might be, whatever is going on, rather than talking about the issue itself, they attack you as a person and they attack you directly. And by doing that, they invalidate your point or what you're trying to talk about. So they'll deflect directly speaking about the issue itself and rather attack you to make you wrong and invalidate your point. You'll know this is happening if they insult you, if they call you names, if they make direct personal attacks against you. That's how you'll know this is happening. No matter what the disagreement, no matter what the conflict, what the issue is, there is never an excuse for name calling or personal attacks in a relationship. It's not about that. In a healthy relationship, you address the issues that are coming up together and you work on those issues together, but there is never an excuse to directly name call or make direct personal attacks on your partner. They constantly make you doubt yourself by doing things like telling blatant lies or denying things that you know for a fact are true. They'll do and say things that are so irrational that it doesn't make any sense to you, but they'll be so confident in the way that they make these assertions that you tend to doubt your own rational thinking and think that you must have it wrong. They'll also do things like bring your career or bring your children into the situation, and they'll use external things outside of the relationship as manipulation pawns. They use the things that you care about to gain power over you, and they play off your guilt about other areas of your life so they can diminish your strength and have that power over you. You'll know that this is happening because you'll actually start to feel crazy. You'll start to doubt yourself, you won't trust yourself, and they'll spin events and twist events in a way that makes you feel crazy because you don't see them that way. And you won't feel certain about anything. You'll be in a constant place of doubt and a constant place of mistrust with yourself and the way you see things. And the last way to identify a toxic relationship, and this is one of the most important, is you'll feel the most love from them at your lowest. And when you're at your highest, they'll do and say things intentionally to bring you down. If you're feeling really good about yourself, they'll sneak in some backhanded comment to undermine your confidence, to undermine your feeling good about yourself. You see, the thing is that you being really confident and being really powerful in your life is threatening to a toxic partner. You finding joy in anything besides them and the relationship, that threatens them. So rather than building you up, they want to tear you down. They want to make you feel like them and the relationship is the only good thing that you have. So they'll find it much easier to show you love when you're feeling really negatively about yourself. When your confidence is low, they'll want to come in and lift you up. They'll say nice things, and they'll be good to you when you feel down about yourself. But when you feel really powerful, really confident, really big in yourself, they're going to do and say things to undermine that confidence and tear you down. You'll know this is happening because you'll constantly feel that you have to diminish yourself to get their love. You'll get the sense that they're trying to steal your joy from you, because in a way they are. You'll start to notice that they need you to feel small in order for them to feel big. You'll feel like you're holding something back. You'll feel like you can't really fully be yourself and express yourself. You'll feel like you're always holding a big part of yourself back. Do you recognize these behaviors? Are you in a relationship now, or have you been in a relationship where these behaviors were prevalent? If so, tell us about it. We'd love to hear about your experience. Drop a comment below. Now, the next thing you need to do once you identify this behavior is you need to rate the relationship in terms of how toxic it actually is. We're going to include a link to a handbook that'll walk you through this process. We're going to include that link in the comments below, so make sure you download that. Now, once you've rated yourself in terms of toxicity, the next step is to address these toxic issues with your partner. This part's really important because how they respond to your approach. When you talk to them, you say, honey, I need to talk about this, or I've noticed some things I want to discuss with you. When you make this approach with them, how they respond to that approach will tell you a lot of what you need to know in terms of discovering if there's really any work to be done in this relationship or not. And this is what you say in a gentle and loving way, and say it in your own words, but in the most gentle and loving way that you possibly can. You say, honey, I've noticed some things. I've noticed that when we have an argument or when we disagree, you have a way of always turning it around on me. And I don't see you taking accountability for things. I feel like when you say things in a disagreement, you say and do things that are intentionally trying to hurt me. I feel like you do things and say things, maybe you've lied, but you've done things in a way that make me doubt myself and make me doubt my confidence. And I feel like you only love me at my lowest. Or again, say it in your own words, and you can use any combination of this that's true for you. But you want to identify the toxic behaviors that you want to address with them. And honestly and openly as you possibly can, say, honey, these are some things I'd like to talk about with you. Can we talk about that? Can we have that conversation? They will respond in one of three ways. The first thing they'll do potentially is they'll revert back to that same behavior. So they might try to flip it around on you and say, well, it's your fault that this is happening, or you're the reason I do this. So they might revert back to the same toxic behavior. If they do this, what I want you to do is say, you're doing it right now. This is exactly what I'm trying to talk about. This is exactly the thing. You're doing it right now. Again, I'm trying to bring something to you and you're making it my fault, or you're making me wrong about it, or you're making me doubt myself. See if they can have some awareness about what they're doing. The second thing they might do is they might say, wow, honey, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize I was doing that. Of course we can talk about it. Let's work on that together. They might do that. If they do that, that's a really good sign. That's really promising in terms of where you could go with each other and the work you could do together. And the third thing they might potentially do that they might land somewhere between reluctance and indifference. Somewhere between, I don't really know, I'm not really open to this, to, I don't really care, why are you making a big deal about it? If they land there, that is certainly not ideal. It's certainly not the best response, but it shows some room to work. Rather than going right into the toxic behavior, like in the first scenario, rather than going right into the toxic behavior, they're somewhere on the fence. That gives you some room to work. But if it doesn't change, if they never change and get into, okay, I'm ready to do some work, you don't have much hope of really having the kind of relationship you want with this person. So how they respond to you in this conversation, when you bring it up, you say, honey, I want to talk about this. How they respond to that will tell you a lot of what you need to know in terms of how do you move forward in the relationship. Can we work on this or not? That'll tell you a lot of what you need to know. We've put together what's called the Toxic Relationship Handbook. I said earlier, we're going to include a link to it right below. Make sure you download that handbook. What we do is we walk you step by step through a situation like this. Step by step through determining how to approach the relationship, how to talk to them, what to do. And we also give a lot more guidance in terms of how do you move on from that after you've had this conversation. We also tell you a little bit about how we can support in a situation like this. So make sure you download that. We're going to include the link below. Again, thank you so much for watching. It's such a pleasure, such an honor. I wish you all amazing relationships. We'll see you next Friday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell. You'll get notified of every new video as soon as it's released. And we'll see you right back here next week.